Welcome to In the House. My name is Mark Shiver. So glad to have you with us for this episode. I'm so excited. Joining me is Representative Jennifer Balkcom. She represents District 117 in Henderson. And Representative Balkcom, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Been looking forward to this. This is your first term in the General Assembly, yet you are active. You're getting some significant bills passed and through the process. So we're going to talk about a couple of those today. And so how does it feel? Are you enjoying, is it everything you thought it would be when you decided to?
I will say I did not have real high expectations. It was something new, but I thought I was up for the challenge. I was looking forward to learning and just wanted to do a good job. And yes, it has been great. It is a family at the House of Representatives. Everyone's been good to me. I've enjoyed the job. I enjoy the policy and the building of bills and working with a group of people to come up with what's best for people in North Carolina.
Well, you're doing a great job. And so I'm sure the folks that you represent there in Henderson are appreciating the work that you're doing. Now, that's kind of a drive to get here.
That's the downside. So if you ask me about the downside, that is the only downside I have is the 4-hour drive. Yes.
Well, you get to remind yourself of how pretty our state is.
It is.
But
it is.
So, hey, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of these bills, and I want to read a quote here. It says, "We cannot let biological boys compete in women's sports. It would ruin women's sports. A year after hormone replacement therapy, I could still hit a golf ball 300 yards. Now, that quote comes from Caitlyn Jenner, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, won the decathlon in 1976, very athletic. And this is pretty strong words from somebody who's been through the process, right?
Yes.
Is saying, no, we can't do this. So you sponsored House Bill 574, which Fairness in Women's Sports, which is addressing this issue. It was passed in the House, passed in the Senate. When you hear somebody, famous who's actually been through this whole process of transitioning and everything, saying what your bill says, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel I'm doing the right thing. It makes me feel like I am speaking for all of those young ladies and women who are struggling with this and are very scared that this is going to happen to them in the future. And I feel like we are putting a stop to it before it becomes a real major problem. I've always thought to myself, let's work towards not having to, it only takes one. For instance, where we talk about Peyton McNabb, who's already gotten hurt. That is enough. It should have never happened, and I don't want any more to happen. I have 3 nieces. All of them play sports, from soccer, volleyball, they wrestle, they do it all. And when I started working on this bill, that is who I had in mind, was them and what I went through in competing in basketball, volleyball, softball. I run track, and I remember thinking to myself, if I would have had to do that and competed to get a scholarship and lost out to a biological male, that I would have been so brokenhearted. My self-esteem, I wouldn't have been able to get that scholarship because of that. That one, and it only takes one. People, I know we've heard a lot about people just saying one, but one is enough.
Yeah.
Why? One person is enough.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And the North State Journal had a big, I guess you would call it an op-ed from somebody, Jennifer Homan, and she quoted Caitlyn Jenner and saying that her point was, you're doing the right thing. this bill
Yes.
is the right thing. And I think people with common sense would agree that,
I think you're right.
I mean, like you said with Miss McNabb, and that was so unfortunate. But when you have a guy, spiking a volleyball, pow, hit somebody in the head. I mean, the force is, and this is not to be critical of women. It's just different, you know.
No, we are built different. God made us different. We do not have the same biological parts as a male.
Yeah,
We know that, and no matter what amount of hormones or what you do, you cannot change it all.
right.
And
And
it science is fact. It is science.
yeah,
Um, to me, common sense. So I tend to agree with Jill. I read her article. It was a good article. I agree with Mr. Jenner, and he has experience. He understands as well.
yeah.
I'm thrilled that he supports this and understands it.
Now, just running through the highlights of House Bill 574, which, by the way, I think I mentioned passed the House and the Senate currently. Uh, Governor Cooper vetoed the bill, and
Yes, he did.
it looks like it's on the House calendar coming up for a veto override. That could change, obviously, but the House is going to, I hope personally, override the governor's veto, and I know you do as well. But the bill, I mean, it just says prohibits male students from playing on middle school, high school, or collegiate athletic teams designated for females, women, or girls. I'm a lot older than you. I'm a lot older than a lot of people down here, believe it or not. But I can't even believe we're talking about this. It's
I agree.
crazy.
Yes, I agree with you. Let me just assure you, when I was running for office, this is not something I thought I was going to have to legislate or write a bill on. But like I said, I have 3 nieces, and it became a concern for them. They actually heard and saw the Peyton McNabb story, and they asked me about it, and I just thought, it started running through my head with all the times that I played sports and all the girls and all the people this could affect. And so I started working on it and put it together, and that's what we came up with.
Yeah. Well, it's very direct to the point. Like I said, to me, it's common sense. It makes sense. Also says requires a student's sex to be recognized solely based on reproductive biology and genetics at birth for purposes of athletic participation. So again, boys play boys sports, girls play girls sports, and I think that's a good idea. It creates a civil cause of action for students who are harmed as a result of a violation of this bill. And let's talk about that again. You mentioned it, Peyton McNabb. For those that don't realize, she was a volleyball player, correct, and got hit in the
Yes,
head,
sir.
and
Yes,
has
sir.
had now is having what may be lifelong negative health
It's,
impact as a result
yes.
of that, and that just should never have happened. And so,
No, that was a biological male playing on a female team.
yeah, and
That
so
is plain and simple. That's exactly what it was. And she got hurt because of that.
I'm thinking about what you said, and I'm probably going to hear these words for the rest of the day in my mind. It only takes one. She's enough. We don't need another. We don't need a handful or a bunch of girls getting hurt. And I think that's a real risk, right? I mean,
Yes.
so the other thing you mentioned, and I wanted to touch on briefly, was the self-esteem that goes into um, any athlete, any child who begins to grow and they have obvious talent for a particular sport, and so they put time in, they put effort and energy, and the old saying is blood, sweat, and tears. They compete and they give it all, and all of a sudden there was I can't remember where this was, but I read where this girl was not allowed to win a swim meet because there was a biological male mixed in among the group, and the folks that were putting on the swim meet wanted to award this transgender individual. And this poor girl had spent half her life training, and she had the gold medal yanked from her just in the name of, being politically correct, or it was terrible. Poor kid.
It was a political move for them, not what was best and what was right.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to protect as well. It's not what the political correct, it is what is right. What is right.
Yeah.
And doing what is right. She deserves to play on a fair, even field. And that's not what happened in that particular case.
You may or may not be able to answer this, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just thought about this. There's so much energy that is put into equality for women, right? And
Yes.
let's have equal pay, and let's have equal opportunity. And so on the one side, there's a great effort to recognize the value of women to the workplace and to society. And then on the other hand, here's people who just don't care at all about these young girls or women or athletes, even in college. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's a complete hypocrisy, if you ask me.
Yes. Well, we're looking at stomping on Title IX, if you really want to, in my words, we're looking at stomping at it, and just a slap in the face to those people and women back 50 years ago who pushed so hard to get women the opportunities and options like that. And so that is my take on that we are stomping and diminishing Title IX.
Well, I hope personally, as a citizen, that the veto override will be successful. I think you've done an excellent job with putting this bill together, and those who worked on it with you. And I hope it becomes law in North Carolina. House Bill 574. Now we're going to turn our attention to something completely different here as we talk about agriculture.
Yes.
North Carolina, obviously the biggest economic driver in our state, and yet silently, nobody's known about this until recently. Farmland has been being sold to foreign countries, and I did just a cursory little bit of background on this before you joined me, and North Carolina has the most farmland purchased by foreign entities in the country, following Texas and Arkansas. Now, what I was reading says that most of these purchases have been made by countries that are friendly to the United States, Britain, Canada, the Netherlands, etc. But of late, countries that are not friendly, like China, for example, have been buying up not only farmland, but farmland that is dangerously close to military installations. And so Majority Leader Bell and yourself, primary sponsor House Bill 463, which passed the House unanimously, by the way.
Yes, and we had great support. We also had bipartisan support. We had a lot of support from both sides of the chamber. It was amazing how many people reached out to me from both sides of the aisle and thanked me for working on this bill.
So tell us what the bill will do, and what hopefully if it will pass the Senate and become law. What is the bill designed to do?
The bill is to protect farmland and military bases, 25-mile radius from military bases, from being bought up from adversary countries. And when we were working on this bill, we were looking at avenues of what we would use to determine. And we looked at the U.S. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So there was no reason to do that. So we used the U.S. Commerce and who is on that they have put on there already as adverse companies, countries. So that is what we decided to use as our guideline for this bill. So that keeps foreign entities like China, like Russia, who's on there, from buying up our farmland and 25-mile radius from military bases. To me, those are assets for North Carolina that need to be protected that we don't always think about. And that is what we were doing with this bill, is protecting those major assets that North Carolina has to use for food, the source of food and protection for North Carolinians and for the United States, if you think about that.
Well, a few minutes ago, I said that I was older than everybody and never thought about the fairness in sports being necessary. I never thought about something like this being necessary. I mean, the world that we live in is changing so quickly. And who would have thought that adversarial countries are just kind of easing on in and buying up farmland? And, that can't be well-intentioned. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of scary.
It is kind of scary. And so to me, I think we need to take a proactive approach and stop it before it gets out of hand. A lot of people's like, is this necessary? Yes, it is necessary. If we have to continue to protect our food quality, our food source, and how we're going to feed North Carolina and the United States as being our top producer of agriculture. I mean, we just hit 103 billion for North Carolina. That is amazing. So to me, it is a top priority. It is a top priority to protect that wonderful asset we have here.
That is amazing. And the farmers and the folks that work so hard to provide for us and others the food that we eat. We can't take it for granted. We really can't. And so I've been eating homegrown tomatoes all summer, and I sure don't want to lose that. There's nothing like a North Carolina tomato. But anyway, so as we kind of wind down here a little bit, I don't want to keep you too long, but we started off by talking about this is your first term, and as you have, what am I trying to say? All right, here, for example, today, just in a few minutes, we've talked about an issue involving athletics with young people and fairness. We've also talked about adversarial countries to the United States buying up farmland. You've participated in the process as our budget is being hashed out. So right there, as a new member of the legislature, you've had to familiarize yourself with athletics, transgender, military, farmland, budgeting. How do you learn all of this stuff? Because there's infrastructure, there's voting rights, there's abortion, and on and on and on, all of these different things. Has it been overwhelming, or are you able to get the help that you need to stay sane in the middle of all of this different stuff that you got to know about?
Well, and the good part is that some of this is part of my makeup of where I come from, my history. I grew up on a farm. It was instilled in me. And so that was something passionate I was about. I was an athlete, and I was athletic growing up, and I knew how important that was to me. And when you start facing those issues, I've always been the type of, let's put myself in their shoes. What does that look like? From all sides, whether that's the defense or the plaintiff, is the kind of way I look at that. And what does that look like in writing that bill to protect as many as possible, or to do what's right for as many as possible? So no matter the bill or what I'm looking at or what I'm working on is what does that look like if I put myself in their shoes from every aspect as much as possible to make the best decision? So that's how I've kind of run my way of thinking. And I've tried to put myself into things that I have experience in, through whether that be budget and finance. I have a business, banking and finance degree, spent most of my life in the banking industry. So I've tried to focus in that area. Grew up on a farm, family still owns a farm. So I've tried to stay in that aspect. I've been on the planning board. My husband and I own a construction company. So when it comes to infrastructure planning, development, I've tried to stay in my lane, is what I kind of call that. But then I'm always willing to look at different things because I love learning new things. I'm a learner. One of my fun things that I do is learning something new. So as I learned about the military side and how that affects it with the farmland bill, that was something new to me, but I knew that it needed to be protected. I knew our military was a top asset for North Carolina, and that was something we needed to work on and protect. So it was something new that I had to learn, and I'm not afraid of learning new things. And everyone that I've reached out to, if I have questions, they have all been great at getting back to me and giving me the answers that I need to make a good decision or the best decision for North Carolina. So yes, it can be overwhelming, but I enjoyed working with others to get the answers and do the right thing for North Carolina.
And that kind of goes along with, you have all these bills and all these issues, but people, you're representing people. And so I'm
Yes.
sure that you get an opportunity to serve, your constituents. Have you had people calling and needing your help and trying to navigate the maze of state government? And what does it
Yes.
feel like being able to do that?
That should be number one. That should be everyone's number one. Yes, creating bills and doing bills and building new laws or retracting laws sometimes. But the number one is answering our constituents and making sure they are getting what they need. That should always be top priority. That is what we're here for, is to serve our constituents and our people home or across North Carolina. Everyone really and truly in the General Assembly, we're affecting everyone when we make. So if anyone's calling my office that needs help, they are our top priority. That is what's taken care of first. So yes, we're juggling a lot, but that is primary number one.
Well, I'll tell you what else you're going to have to juggle, Representative Balkcom. You're going to have to juggle me bugging you to come back on, because you've been a tremendous guest. I enjoyed talking to you. I could go on for another hour and just go back and forth about important issues in North Carolina. But I know you're busy. You got a lot going on. So I will let you go. But I will say thank you very much for being our guest today on In the House.
Thank you, Mr. Shriver, for having me. I appreciate that. It was an honor.
Thank you. It was our honor as well. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too.